the Adeptus Ridiculous podcast. My name is DK Diamantes. His name is Bricky. And if you enjoy today's episode of the podcast and maybe you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous, where you can get access to the Discord, bloopers if they happen. $15 tier gets you access to all of our posters in crispy digital HD format. It's great. They're great. Ooh, check it out, patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous. Bricky is going to tell you about merch and books and stuff.
Hey, merch and books and stuff. So I know we've been a little lax on the Galaxy in Flames. We're going to read it, I swear. I believe we have that slated for next weekend. So make sure you read that. Also, don't forget to go to orchidate.com, link in the description where you can get all kinds of great merch stuff. Great stuff, posters, dice, objective markers, desk mats, little guys stuff, hoodies, shirts, etc. It's all available. Check it out at orchidate.com. Eventually, I'm going to get a redirect, and then we can just send it over. It'll be a lot easier, but maybe we'll do that for next week. Yippee!
Yeah. Yippee! 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 I actually have the physical copy of Galaxy in Flames.
Oh, no shit. Any particular reason why you do?
I have started to enjoy actually having physical books and just having cozy lounge time with the cats and a book. Very stereotypical cozy time with animals, and yeah.
All right. I feel that. Honestly, if my house was a little bit more cozy core, I would probably do the same. I need to get a bit more. I need that IKEA lamp that everyone has. Looks like a big orange donut.
I don't think I know that IKEA lamp.
It is great looking. I love it.
Hell yeah.
But anyway, no, I get that. I kind of have a rule where if I buy the book, or if I read the book on Audible or whatever, read on Audible, you know what I mean? And I really like it, I will tend to buy the physical version as more of I want to own only physical books that I have read.
Right, and you like as well. You don't want to buy a bunch of books that I hate this book and I didn't know it, and oh shit, now I'm stuck with it.
I bought a collector set of the Night Lords trilogy.
Hell yeah.
Also, yeah, that's the light. That's the light, Shy, the big donut.
Wow, I've never seen that.
It's very cozy.
It is, especially if you had a dimly lit room and you just had one little orange corner. I could see that.
A nice, well-worn leather lounger chair.
I get it.
DK, what kind of interior design do you like? I've been recommended interior design YouTube as of recently, and I've been on a big kick.
Oh, what kind of interior? I don't know, because I don't really interior design much because I rent. So there's not a whole lot I can really do to my place.
That is fair. I think I meant more so related to are you kind of like a rustic person? Do you a mid-century modern kind of person? Do you know what these words mean?
I feel for interior design, I feel I'm more a little more modern, where I would probably want just a kind of a dimly lit place with lots of bright lights hanging around, so it's kind of that cozy bright lights vibe. I don't know if that's an aesthetic, but yeah.
Sure. I see Shy is currently she is currently single man coring, where we have the nice white room with TV and mattress. Fantastic.
I mean, it looks nice.
See, I've always been a big fan of industrial. I'm a really big fan of rustic industrial loft style. The tall ceilings, the exposed brick, no pun intended. Metal, a little bit of metal beams. But I feel like you got to add a lot of color to that, so it's not too dark and overly masculine. I'm gonna add some pinks and reds. And when it comes down to industrial, that's the most important part when we think about the Imperium of Man. Of
course, it's the industrial machine that grinds you down into nothing.
Exactly. And with the industry of the Imperium of Man, the first thing you tend to think about is weaponry, death, and the destruction that can come from it. And therefore, your quote, sir, is, Yours is to heed the machine as others heed their kin. Tend to the war spirits all about, but do so in the knowledge that you do the emperor's duty. Without your ministrations, no bolt may be fired and no enemy slain.
Oh, this feels very Mechanicum coded. This feels very admech coded because they're always the ones working on like the machines, and there's the machine spirit, and bless my gun, and bless the spirit inside my gun, bless the, but what admech thing would we be doing?
So you are correct, but I will say it's not admech.
Is it like a specific admech person?
You're getting closer, but again, not admech.
Then it's like then it feels like it's got to be some sort of like I don't know if there's a person that's like, oh yeah, I bless your gun with the blah 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 the emperor, and emperor bless your gun, and I don't know. Tell me what we are doing.
It's fine. We are actually doing an episode on Techmarines.
Oh, okay.
You kind of see what I mean. It's not admech, but it is.
Yeah, but it's very admech adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Techmarine, my personal favorite of these Space Marines in the lovely video game of Dawn of War 2, in which I would set up tarantula turrets everywhere and be what, as they call, an asshole.
It's not the tarantula turrets that make you that, but yeah, sure. I vaguely remember seeing a bunch of pictures of Techmarines, and Shai just posted a picture of one. Anytime you got those like pseudo mechadendrites with like big honking weapons and stuff, I'm in. I'm totally in on these like sort of the spider vibe, this techy spider vibe.
Yeah, Techmarines are fun. Because when you think about old school 40K, like there's two kinds of people who think about 40K. There's the modern and the old.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both valid in their own ways. The modern look looks a lot more like that photo that Shai posted, extremely gross and gritty and very like hardcore and kind of disgusting, and to go along with the weirdness of Warhammer. And then the people who think about an old school Techmarine, we're talking John Blanche. We're talking that 80s hardcore over the top shenanigans. And also, of course, the old school Techmarine with the big wrench. What a mini.
Yeah, it was a different time when that Techmarine came out, but oof.
Yeah, different worlds. But then you of course, so you have the old school and the John Blanche, but the John Blanche style artwork always reminds you of like the super over the top machinery that aids Space Marines, Land Raiders, Thunderhawks, attack bikes. But who fixes the check engine light in the middle of combat?
Oh, be the Techmarine, I would assume, with their big ass wrench.
I mean, basically, the Techmarine is the main person that finds this fun little middle ground between Space Marine and Tech-priest. Who is the one driving the dang Thunderhawk?
True, it would be the Techmarine, because you can't always bring an admech with you, and I'm sure the admech don't always want to go on, a horrible campaign of bloodshed and violence, and oh yeah, I swear we'll protect you. Better to have a Techmarine that can actually like defend themselves, can actually use all their little mechadendrites. They can use it when they're not fixing stuff, and they can also, just fix stuff.
Yeah, a Techmarine, like you think about it quite often. Yes, we don't just kidnap Quarians and make them do the hard work. You can't actually kidnap Quarians from the flotilla anymore because of woke.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh
no!
But
I'm a Tallyman, so you can't just say that.
You're offending my fictional race of
yes,
people.
You're offending my fictional waifu, Bricky, and I don't like it.
Well, that's all right. She's me getting the 5-star tally pull in Genshin Impact. She was real to me.
She was real to me.
What a great line. Anyway, yes, so the Techmarines, also known as the Frater Astrotechnicus, are, like you people, that's like who fixes the stuff, who blesses the items, and you find that in between the Marine and the admech. So talk about the Techmarine.
Hell yeah.
So, a brief and important reminder about the old unification of Terra and Mars, which, trivia, DK,
Mhm.
what is the symbol that it represents the Treaty of Terra and Mars?
Ah, that's the Aquila. The, twin-headed, eagle is the unification of Terra and Mars.
He's done it. He has
Mhm.
done it.
Mhm.
Um, Now, obviously, way back at the tail end of the Unification Wars, Big E was prepping for the Great Crusade to reunite humanity. Mars was a machine-worshipping hellscape, and while the Emperor may have been able to take the planet by force, it's very costly, detrimental, and let's be honest, even though they were a bunch of crazy Martians, they could have a huge benefit.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
manu-
Totally not worth it to, the expenditure needed to take over Mars, just not worth it. Easier to make a treaty.
and manufacturing on good old like on Terra was rough because post unification wars everything was screwed.
Yep. Yep.
So he kind of showed off a little bit and showed himself to be basically the omnissiah from the Mechanicum, and it was the Treaty of Olympus Mons. That was what was signed.
Okay.
It basically allowed the Mechanicum to act autonomously across the galaxy, gave them the freedom to worship the machine god without being viewed as heretics, and were provided with the means to pursue their quest for knowledge. The trade-off is that the Imperium would be provided all the machinery necessary for the Great Crusade, as well as technicians to provide the upkeep, which is why the Imperial Aquila has the two heads, one for Terra, one for Mars. Blessed be the
Yep.
Holy Pigeon.
Yes, the holy pigeon. We do love that holy pigeon.
Damn straight we do. So, the main key part of the treaty is to do with the upkeep of the machines and the weapons. Things made by the Mechanicum usually had full control by the Mechanicum. And because the technology was so lost, the Imperium really didn't want to have to do a lot of that interest, so they basically was like, you handle this as much as you can, admech. Though granted, this time it was the Mechanicum, not the admech, because admech means Adeptus Mechanicus, and that was a future
That's a different
situation.
ball of wax. Yep.
Totally different. However, of course, Mechanicum are busy with their own politicking and goals away from the Imperium, and obviously, the idea that they can be there at the drop of a hat for every legion of Space Marines is a bit of a stretch. So, because of that, you would often have, a presence there on like a battle barge or a larger station, but they can't often be in the same areas as Space Marines. Like, you don't just throw a jump pack on a Tech-priest and just send him out there, right?
Yeah, you probably not. It's especially if it's like, oh yeah, we're sending our space marines to a planet that is completely infested with nids. It's like, oh, you're just going to send your tech priest down with them. You're just gonna send a little admech doodad onto a world covered in nids, huh? Yeah, how's that
Yeah.
gonna work out?
Yeah, the Nids they won't ignore him, but they certainly won't eat him first.
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck. But obviously, this led to the situation in which Space Marines, Tech Marines, were created for that compromise. It is a Space Marine with the knowledge of the Mechanicum, and therefore they can stand their ground with their Legion to make sure things go off without a hitch.
Mm-hmm. And they're not an easy target because I'm assuming we're going to talk about this, but I'm assuming a Tech Marine is just as beefy and hardy and battle-born as your regular Astartes, but can also fix yo shit.
Arguably more so at times, because they're full of, like tons of mechanics.
True. All those crazy arms. I'm sure this is going to be asked too, but are they as good as having just an admech tech priest with you? Is there any downside to a tech priest?
They're annoying.
All right.
I mean, I'm not I'm joking, but I'm not really. I'm genuinely not really. The tech priests are Tech priests are annoying, but they're also. I mean, they're squishy. They're made of all. I mean, okay, they can be squishy.
Mm-hmm.
The tech priest is entirely related to what the writer needs. Does the rider need like
Ah,
a doomsday weapon hidden underneath a bunch of robes? Then they get that. Do they need like a little fat wobbly dude to run away like a big bell like in Day of Ascension? Then they need that as well. It depends on what they need, but Tech Marines normally, yes, are very hardy. I mean, they are a Space Marine covered in mechadendrites, various extra weapons, claws, and normally have some more biotics than the average person does. So if their leg gets blown off, they might not bleed to death.
cool.
So
God, they do look cool with all those extra megadendrites and stuff.
they do. Plus, you get some really cool ones. Like I really like the Grey Knight Brotherhood Tech Marine, which I think Shy posted a little bit up there a bit. It's literally like a psychic Grey Knight, but it is a Tech Marine. It is so awesome. I love it to death.
Oh, let's go.
I think it's so cool. Also, I think I don't play Grey Knights, but I honestly might if I could run 3 Tech Marines because they have like way more guns than they have any right to, and it's just kind of funny. Or way more melee than they have any right to, and it's kind of funny.
Is it because they have all those mechadendrites that the game's like, of course, they should get more melees. They've got all of the Spider-Man arms. They've got the mechadendrites. They should get more.
Pretty much. Also, there's there's the Chaos version, but we might talk about that later. So the concept of the Tech Marine has been in the game since the first edition, which is back in like the Rogue Trader era. Specifically in November of 1988, or as you, Bricky, would say, late 90s or early 2000s. Thank you, editor.
Let's go. Let's get now. Bricky's getting future sniped.
Editor aside, quote, millennials will agree that the 80s are and will perpetually be like 25 years ago. Quote, like 25 years ago. So he's not wrong, but I am going to take offense to this. Oh, are we gonna have the art at this point shot? Yeah, let's do that. So some of the viewers were like, we should get the researcher on the art, and so we did exactly that. First things first, of course, we have the art done by Ted, which is fantastic.
Naturally.
When Shy found our researcher, I saw the image that they used for their Discord profile, and it was literally a possum with glasses reading a book that said lore, and I'm like, that's the guy.
That's the one. It must be you.
That's the one right there. But yeah, let's do it. Let's do a little introduction, Shy. That might be a pretty good time because there's so many soul reads in the script.
Yeah, and if you watched the last episode of Realm of Ridiculous, they looked over the fantasy episode too, and gave me a ton of context and corrections and stuff to make it so much easier.
Yippee, as they say.
Yeah, quite poggers.
Perfect. They are. Viewers can just call them Possum. Their name shall be Possum. That is the name. Researcher Possum, Possum Man, however it needs to be said, etc.
Hell yeah. And they do good work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Possum. The artwork probably is done, so they're probably doing some fun stuff currently in the video or on the background, so good timing.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Anyway, originally the Tech Marines were released as metal miniatures, like most of them at the time. And they were released in the 3 per pack blister packs, aka the first real mystery boxes. Also, yes, that is first edition admech. That image right there. Things have changed.
That's what things are ever so slightly different.
Yes.
Whew.
Now, at the time, of course, the admech were a thing that was known in the first edition, but they were not fleshed out really, not until a little bit later on. It was mainly
not until they got the flesh out.
But they were expanded upon a lot more in the further codexes. The Codex Imperialis supplement book for the second edition, which came out in the strike through late 90s, early 2000s, 1993. God, they're getting too comfortable. We need to stop them. We need to bring them down a little bit.
We need to quell this fire before it gets out of control.
Oh no. But for the most part, their influence and aesthetic were a lot more in the major part of the second edition minis. And so while the admech didn't actually have their first full army until 7th edition. I remember actually when I first started playing, they didn't have an army. Their influence was still obviously all over the place, much like how Dark Mech doesn't have an army, but they're clearly everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
It's because Dark Mech is an obvious faction.
Yeah.
So, how Techmarines came to be, for the most part, there's a big question of like how that kind of lore really, I don't know, started. I guess, yeah. I guess that makes sense. But back in the way back lore for what it comes to the Techmarines, it is a generalized prospect that a Space Marine chapter will have to go through a super dangerous process to become a Space Marine to begin with, as you've seen. Those who become Techmarines are not from the Mechanicum themselves, but are instead selected from within the Space Marine companies. So the admech doesn't find a guy and turn him into a Space Marine becomes a Techmarine.
Oh, okay. I guess a part of me thought that like the admech would pick someone and be like, oh yes, you're worthy, but it's more just like an Astartes is like, boy, I sure am good at repairing stuff. I should become a Techmarine.
They definitely do have them, like they do pick, don't get me wrong, but they pick a Space Marine's already established and just seems to be really interested in the inner workings of tech. They find the guy with the technology and mathematics autism instead of the excessive murder chaos autism, and then they pick him instead. Just like how I didn't get the smart and intelligence autism, and I got the expensive hobby autism.
I feel that. I got the expensive gotcha game version of that, unfortunately. So I get it. I get it.
Hell yeah,
I was gonna
brother.
say, so not too many Space Wolf Techmarines?
No, I mean there are Space Wolf Techmarines. Don't get me wrong; they have to have them, but
not as many as say the Ultramarines or something.
I mean the Iron Hands, man.
Oh, of course the Iron Hands. That's fair.
Yeah, the Space Wolf's got plenty of Techmarines, but obviously it's that whole bit. Now they're sent. The Space Marines chosen are sent to Mars to train under the eye of the Mechanicus. The training experience of a Techmarine prospect is really grueling. And extremely isolating. This training an aspirant goes through is 30 years. In technical terms, a full bricky.
You've been full bricked in your training session? Okay.
And this isn't a fun co-op training experience where they get to use all the machines and how they work. They get to use a GM trainer while training in the Earth Federation forces. Or forced frontline training like Get in the Robot Shinji. Editor's note, if DK finds the Evangelion reference too basic of an anime reference, send him a picture of Hideo Kojima pointing at the screen with the word otaku in big bold letters on it.
Oh, no, I think the Get in the Mech Shinji is a proper one that like most people know, and it's a good anime reference to like throw out there. That's a good one. Everybody gets that one. You get that one. Shy gets that one. Everybody in chat gets that one. That's a good one.
Perfect. Good to note. Instead, the training of the Techmarine is essentially learning each and every single one of the maintenance hymns. Oh wow, Shy had that on.
She had it queued up.
She had that queued. Holy, she just sent that like instantaneously.
Snap of a finger. Damn.
They need to be able to communicate with the machine spirit and calm it in an almost effortless manner, knowing all the hymns and rites by heart. The training of the Techmarine is basically essential for the ties between Terra and Mars, because without the knowledge bestowed upon by a Techmarine, the war machine of Terra in active combat would fail. And if that fails, the Treaty of Olympus Mons fails. So the training needs to be perfect, and the resulting Techmarine needs to represent the unity of both planets perfectly. In a sense, the training of a Techmarine is a reformation of the Treaty of Olympus Mons. The Space Marine, the champion of humanity, working closely with the Mechanicum, or the admech at this point.
Oh, that's true. They are like the living embodiment of the treaty, of the Aquila, of like the unification of man and admech and Mars and Earth.
You get it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
That is the most important part. Now, when you think of a generic tech priest, you think of the tendrils, the claws, appendages, and all the different kinds of modifications to make it ease of work and, things that your biological hands just couldn't do.
Yeah, give him the clamps.
Give him the claw.
Yeah, give him the claw, give him the clamps.
Did you ever watch the Matthew Broderick Inspector Gadget film?
Oh, nope.
No?
I know it exists, never watched it though.
It wasn't very good. I'll let you know that one right there.
That's why I didn't watch it, because it looks terrible.
I used to rent that at a Hollywood Video like every week because I was like 7 and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
It pains me to say that as a very small DK, I remember actually watching the cartoon on TV and loving it.
Fantastic.
Go Gadget. Broken hip.
Go Gadget. But what times those were. So where the hell was I? There we go. So they obviously have modifications as well to the nature and training of their work, but not to the same level as the Mechanicum, who have strived to remove the weakness of the flesh. You have your run-of-the-mill bionic enhancements and the light degrees of mechadendrites, of course, but the most striking visual is the gigantic clunky servo arms on their backpacks, or their power packs.
Yep.
Due to the size and stature of a Techmarine, they're able to wield them as servo harnesses, and they have multiple servo arms with different purposes. Sometimes they have bolters, they have plasma cutters, a flamer. Their power armor is modified for better efficiency and those large add-ons to their physical stature. They're also have been known to have their fingers or hands removed or fully augmented so they can serve as an extension of those servo arms in an unobstructive way. You want metal hands to fully communicate with the machine spirit.
Yeah, to better do the work that you've been trained to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. They are very admech coded, but as well they should be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they will be, right?
Yeah.
In regard, of course, with those devices, they also will be armed with lighter weaponry, like a sidearm. But of course, the most striking weapon that they will have is the Omnissiah axe, very much similarly to the Cult Mechanicus as well. And those will vary in size depending on, the size
Space Marine.
of the Space Marine, right?
That is pretty cool to see a Space Marine with the Omnissiah axe, because usually I've really only seen those with an admech dude. Like I don't see a ton of Space Marines with that axe, so it's kind of sick to see that big old chunky axe on like a Space Marine that also has mechadendrites. It's like that's a vibe.
I must admit, I played Rogue Trader recently, and I think they changed up something about how Pascal uses the axe. Because now he kind of like slices people, but before, whenever he would hit someone, he would just do this giant like karthunk and this huge lightning slam, and it was almost farcical because it just felt like he was doing it in a sort of like bass boosted, like by the Omnissiah's will, boom.
I mean, that thing is heavy enough; it should have a little bass boost when you hit someone with it.
Well, Omnissiah axe is very often like a power axe, so it has like a field around it and it does a good like kerslam.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Now, in regards to the actual power armor of the Techmarine, it's not only modified to obviously handle the array of tools, but it's also aesthetically unique. The armor is a lot more personalized color, and they include a lot of red in their color scheme for the iconography of Mars, the Machina Opus to show they've completed their training. But obviously, despite customizing their armor to balance the iconography of Mars and their chapter, it should be noted that they cannot obscure the colors of their chapter, nor can they not have the Machina Opus on their armor. Both must be displayed in their unity. So the Machina Opus is the classic, I believe that's like the skull cog look. And then the other shoulder pad will have their iconography, Ultramarines, Imperial Fists.
Whatever chapter they're from, yeah.
Yeah. In a sense, it's the unity, right? It's the unity between the two.
Yeah, you gotta have both because you are literally the union. You are the living embodiment of the union between Earth and Terra, so you gotta have both of them. You gotta have your heraldry.
And obviously, because outside their arsenal, they're very familiar with the classic priests of Mars, which include things like servo skulls, servitors, mech spiders, all of the other items that can generally just go ahead and make it a little bit easier for the Techmarine to do its job.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, things to focus more on direct aid to their comrades, making sure their machines are working. In a sense, some like their dags, but some like caravans more.
Do you like dags?
Like dags?
Do you like dags?
Dags.
What? Dags?
Oh, dogs.
Oh, dogs.
I like dags. I like caravans more. What a great film.
What a great movie.
What a great
Wonderful movie.
So, Techmarines, what do? Obviously, as we've alluded to it, the Techmarine, what they obviously do involves everything the admech tends to do, but sometimes it's a lot more specific. One could say that they're like a field mechanic for the chapter, but that is like a huge understatement. They are an extension to any and all tech used by their chapter, whether it is a bolter or literally the hull of the battle barge. The Techmarine is responsible for assuring that everything is working and stays working.
Naturally.
As previously mentioned, weapons of the Imperium are blessed before being sent out to those who use them, and Techmarines are able to pass on the blessings as well. In battle, the field of battle, the Techmarines are solely responsible to make sure that everything stays in working order, and their implementation of the teachings of the admech have helped assure their victory specifically all the time. Mastering the machine spirit is crucial because maybe your rhino gets a las cannon in the chest and he needs to fix that up because you need to run away real quick because chaos cultists are running you down with plasma guns.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of them.
Does the training for a Techmarine change depending on what chapter they come from? Because like some chapters are going to have maybe more tech stuff, right? Like an Iron Hands or something is maybe going to have more need of a more adept Techmarine than say like, I don't know, the Thousand Suns, but all the Thousand Suns right now wouldn't need it. But like, you know, like, does it change depending on where you come from?
It do. And actually, we'll have a little bit of a chat about that later in the episode.
Oh, okay.
It do. Now, obviously, between all of that, they master the machine spirits and are able to generally interface with a lot more of the complex weapons in the ships to determine technical issues by feeling the pain or anger of the machine. As an aside, it has been discussed before here on the podcast, but conversations about Techmarines reinforce the idea and kind of make it painfully obvious that the machine spirit is some form of AI.
Oh, yeah.
So
it has to be, right?
Techmarines range from the Holy Jiffy Lube mechanic to Holy Bitdefender antivirus plus installer mechanic.
Oh boy, that is quite the scope. Ooh.
Yeah. So like that being said, I like to drop a quote here describing one of the kinds of machine spirits that Techmarine may have to deal with. Mm-hmm. Also because it was one of the more absurd things while reading a book in Codex for the episode is what Mr. Possum says. For context, this Techmarine is a part of the Imperial Fists. Bastion called out Techmarine Korgon. We are at war. Who demanded the machine spirit? Is it the enemy? Its synthesized voice filled the data core of the Bastion in violet. The spirit was known to be curt and crude, constantly angry about something. The Iron Warriors, replied the Techmarine. The servo arm on his armor's backpack inserted a data probe into the socket on a crystal wall behind Korgon, inputting the data the Starfort sensorium collected on the enemy ship. The Furious Malice, known to be the flagship of Warsmith Shantu. Less than half an hour ago, it emerged in real space within striking distance of us. Filth-licking dogs, spat the machine spirit. Would that I had hands to wring their necks. Would that I had bowels that I might void them on their corpses.
Wow.
So the Imperial Fist machine spirit was like, I would shit on you if I could.
Yeah. Damn, if only I had hands to choke you and a bowel so I could have a movement all over your face. Damn.
Says the machine, says the computer.
Says the computer, yeah, holy.
AI is outlawed, remember this.
Yeah, totally.
So, Yeah, shenanigans, but pretty funny.
Hell yeah.
Techmarines, also those who are mostly trading and known as the vitiates, will often be pilots. So the Techmarines themselves are pretty few and far between. And there's a degree of versatility there. Some Space Marines that are not Techmarines will receive training when it comes to piloting and usage of various vehicles. Like some things are solely operated by a Space Marine, like an assault bike or something.
Yeah.
But the bigger vehicles are needed to be operated by the Techmarine specifically. Some of the larger stuff, as opposed to just being hanging out of the ship. A Thunderhawk, right, for example.
Yeah.
A Land Raider.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Machine Spirit and the Servitor will pilot it, but not the big stuff. The Thunderhawk, most definitely not. So earlier, we talked about the training of the Techmarine and how it was mysterious for a very good reason. And that good reason is how they are viewed when they return to their chapter and how they were viewed for the existence in their chapter. So imagine hanging out with your friend, and one friend says, "Hey, I'm going to go to a technical school." And 3 decades later, he comes back looking and acting like a Borg.
Oh boy, school changed you, huh?
It's a bit weird, right? Unlike his old chapter brothers who have built up a camaraderie for the last 30 years, the Techmarine studied the rigorous sacred text of the Mechanicus and devoted his life into serving as an analog of his faith. When they return to the chapter, they're distant, isolationist, and they tend to find solace in their teachings and their work. Combine that with the already very apparent distrust for the admech that many Space Marines have, and Techmarines are viewed often as a bit of an oddity.
Oh, I didn't even think about that because if you've played Space Marine 2, you know how the Astartes feel about the admech and their shenanigans. And true, if your old Space Marine buddy came back and suddenly he's very admech coded, you'd be very suspicious of him. He's acting weird. He's acting isolated. He doesn't really talk as much anymore. That would cause some questions and some concerns and maybe some,
It's also
plastic side eyes.
It's also weird too, because like they wear a lot of the Cult Mechanicus stuff on their sleeves. Less so, they still have their chapter heraldry, but it is like, it's a little bit back and forth with that.
Yeah.
It is also, a little bit of a strange mixture though, because begrudgingly, a lot of the Space Marines have to hold the Techmarines in a very high regard because basic functionalities would be nigh impossible without them. But it doesn't really mean they have to like them. So, they find themselves just being a little bit like Techmarines will hang out with other Techmarines. And they don't have to always enjoy their time.
Yeah, so it's that boss that you really don't like, but you have to respect because they're your boss and they do so much for the company that the company can't exist without them. But God, they're so annoying, and yeah,
there's a little bit of that kind of stuff that goes along with it. Yeah,
yeah.
Now, moving from that side of things, obviously, when it comes to the admech, their feelings are actually similar towards Techmarines. On the whole, the Techmarine is viewed by the admech as a necessary component to their treaty with Terra and in carrying out the Machina Opus. But they are able to go to Mars and have access to a more run-of-the-mill Space Marine. But by design, the Techmarine's transformation to something like a Tech-priest is incomplete. Not all the secrets of the cult are taught to them, because that would nullify the need of the admech. You don't give them all of the business acumen. You need to still get paid.
Yeah, of course not. You don't want to train someone so well that you nullify the need for you.
Right. And they're not viewed as a equal with any members of the Cult Mechanicus. And some devout members of the cult might even see the existence of the Techmarine as a bit of tech heresy. It's a new, like a non-admech cult member being taught the secrets of the cult and then, using it for not the Omnissiah, or no, not the machine gun.
Yeah, good old heretic, all right.
Yeah. Now, so you might be wondering, where in the hell is the Techmarine going to find some sort of acceptance? And ironically, it comes from the place you might not expect, which is the Deathwatch.
Huh.
Now, as you
You're
know,
right, I would not expect that.
no, absolutely not. Like the inquisitional force, the Deathwatch, that's a little bit weird.
Mhm.
But as you know, the Deathwatch act as an extension of the Ordo Xenos, and they serve their long vigil against the Xenos threat, and they're made of elite members of each chapter. As Techmarines aren't really abundant, losing one would be an immense loss for their chapter, and their unique background and studies may result in them opting to go directly from training on Mars to the Deathwatch itself, as opposed to leaving their chapter. Due to the nature of kill teams and the missions that the Deathwatch go on, a Techmarine is an insanely helpful asset because their knowledge of machines and weaponry makes them very unique and fit to analyze Xenos artifacts and weapon salvage when they're reclaimed.
I mean, that is fair. Also, I don't know why as soon as we were like, "Oh, yeah, they find solace in the Deathwatch," I'm like, "Man, when can I play as a Techmarine in Space Marine 2 or Rogue Trader or something? I want a Techmarine."
I played as a Techmarine all the time in Dawn of War 2. That was the Techmarine game for me. I loved that one.
Damn.
Yeah, that was the good times. But obviously from there, being able to like analyze alien weaponry, because the Deathwatch are a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? Pragmatic
Mhm.
with their stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure some the Deathwatch guys, they like use alien weapons, like the Xenophase blade, for example.
Oh, sure. I
They
would imagine that's about right, yeah.
they use weird, yeah, it's like literally a towel gun right there. Like
Mhm.
they are a lot more pragmatic with that kind of stuff, and that knowledge is important. Therefore, the Techmarines can actually, you know, it may not be a lot of good company, but everyone from the Deathwatch is out of their element because it's a kill team full of all kinds of people from different chapters.
Yeah, that makes sense if you're open to Xeno stuff, you're open to using, like, a Tau gun and all that, then sure, you'd be open to a Techmarine, and you wouldn't be as suspicious of them, you'd be more welcoming, they're useful, that's what you need as a Deathwatch, you just need useful tools.
Absolutely. There's also something that's called the Master of the Forge, which is basically, once you study the verses of the Cult Mechanicus, it doesn't end once Techmarine leaves. They'll continue their studies after leaving Mars, obviously. And those who gain seniority as a Techmarine are known as Masters of the Forge. They are like, you have librarians, you have chief librarians. That's like the higher level.
Okay.
It just means that their expertise and masters of the teachings of Mars make them as close to a non-Martian tech priest as they possibly can. And often can go like walk up to a machine and be like, "Oh yeah, I know what's wrong with it," and just instantly.
Are there a lot of Master of Forges? Because that sounds like quite the tall order to get to, even for a Techmarine.
I mean, no, not really. It's like the main chief of that part of the tech priest area. They're mainly like, I think there's only one, but I may be wrong on that one. It's kind of like there's a chief librarian. There's like there's like a certain amount of like there's one chapter master.
Oh, right, okay.
It's like the leader per chapter.
Okay, got you. It's not like you're just like, "Oh, yeah, all of these guys have trained really well. They're all Master of the Forge status." It's just, okay, there's just the one per chapter that's like, "Yep, I oversee everything."
It's also because they are a little borderline fanatical with their teachings. Most Masters of the Forge are primarily relegated to the Forge. And Space Marines might be a little bit uneasy about Techmarines, but Masters of the Forge is even more so. There is basically no reason to ever talk with one because they are isolated in the Forge the whole time. And most of the time, Masters of the Forge have zero reason to speak with or the time to talk with people if they feel like talking to begin with. They're too busy with their studies and their work.
That's fair.
So they also often may end up being the important factor in activating the old relics of the chapter, maybe some relic weapons or, awakening an interred dreadnought.
Oh, of course. Who else would be better than the Master of the Forge for that? They know all the stuff. Yep.
A quick little brief note about Enginseers. Besides some of the special chapter-specific Techmarines, there is a non-Astartes version of them, also known as Enginseers. They're the Imperial Guard version ones. They are kind of the same variant where they use it again for tanks and other machinery as well. They're lesser in prestige than Space Marines, obviously, so they don't have full autonomy over their tech devices, especially in battle. The Guard, that is. Therefore, the Enginseers come in to do so.
So even the Guard kind of get their little tech repair guy.
Yeah, they're kind of like an in-between between a guardsman and a Tech-priest. They're trained in the ways of the Cult Mechanicus in a similar way, but due to the quote-unquote shorter life of this standard human to a Space Marine, it's not as arduous of training.
Because it can't be. You can't spend 30 years of a human lifespan training, because then, you go in at 30 years old, you come out at 60, and it's like, well, you're not going into a fight.
Right. And so obviously there are a lot of times where the Guard will have to do on-the-fly modifications to weapons or repair mid-combat. And because Guardsmen are a horde army, you would need a reasonable amount of Enginseers to maintain everything, and it's borderline impossible, which makes the Enginseers not very happy about that, because John Guardsman having to do on-the-fly repairs for his lasgun is doesn't make them feel very good.
Yeah. Also, whenever all these pictures of the Enginseers, I'm just like, oh yeah, they just look like admech if they weren't so hell-bent on ridding themselves of the flesh.
Yeah, a little Guardsman kind of combination there.
Mm-hmm.
Even that guy on the first picture has a las pistol.
Mm-hmm.
Now Guardsmen, for the like Space Marines, they regret, they either like them sometimes because like, thank God you fixed our stuff, but also they're weird, and so the Guardsmen don't love them for the same reason. But they don't have the rights that Space Marines do, so they kind of just like deal with it.
Okay.
So
you still got to respect the repairman, right? Like, a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it's if your Chimera's broken down, you definitely need someone to help you out with that one.
But you're not having a beer with them.
No, I would not recommend that, and they probably would be like, beer removes my cognitive function. And then
they probably, yeah. The snooty one is like, beer is no fun. It reduces.
Yeah. He's like a Redditor.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of their overwhelmingly practical knowledge, they are often viewed as lowly but necessary cogs in the workings of the machine god's order. So because they are not religious nuts and actual blue-collar workers, they get no respect from the real admech.
Oof.
Unsurprising to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds pretty on brand for 40K and the admech. Yeah.
They are dicks at times.
Well, oftentimes, most of the time.
Oftentimes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned specific chapter Space Marines. Obviously, Techmarines are viewed in a more absolutist manner, and they are often suspicious from other Space Marines. Like the episode of SpongeBob where Mr. Krabs was a robot and saying "beep boop, beep boop bop."
Ah, yes. Yup. Mm-hmm.
Editor's note, sorry DK, no layup anime reference, still salty about the Orion thing. Just watch Lower Decks and I'll accept an apology at a later date.
Oh yeah, I did not realize that the I guess I like the blue people in Star Wars are the Orions, and then apparently it was flabbergasting to people that I didn't know. Green, sorry, they're green. Sorry, it was flabbergasting to people that I did not know that.
I won't lie, I am not a Star Wars lore nerd, so I would be. You said Star Wars, didn't you?
Did I?
Oh dear,
boy.
Oh dear, we've lost the plot.
Star Trek. It was Star Trek. That's what I meant, chat. It was an early morning today. Yeah, I meant Star Trek.
I love how even when we're filming a podcast, we're still calling them chat.
Yeah, well, there's the live chat that's probably furious right now, so it's fine.
That's probably true. Also, apparently, kids nowadays are saying chat.
Oh, yeah, probably. It's just a catch-all when on.
Yeah. There's a world that we're in, and we're the problems.
Yeah,
Anyway, obviously for chapter specific Techmarines, they can be a little bit different in terms of their personality. Chapters like the, quote, Praetors of Orpheus, a second founding Ultramarine chapter, really embrace ancient technology, so they're welcoming and honoring of Techmarines. Iron Hands, of course, embrace it in an excessive and obsessive manner.
Yep.
Where the Master of the Forge is held in a higher regard than the other masters of the chapter. As for variants, the Iron Hands are a great place to start, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
Unlike the Techmarine in other chapters, the Iron Hands have the Iron Fathers, and they are basically a combination of the Chaplain and a Techmarine. They serve on the Iron Council, which is a relic from the Great Crusade, where they're basically the Medusan tech fanatics, and they toiled over all the Dark Age tech on the planet. Basically they're a combination of like Chaplain and Tech-priest. But the Iron Father, for the most part, many of them were Techmarines, but plenty more have become like chaplains, apothecaries, battle brothers, like lots of that stuff.
Yeah, Shy posted a picture of one, and God, that picture goes so hard.
It's pretty cool, right? The Iron Hand Techmarines are like, they are the ones, you know?
Yeah. If you're gonna have the most badass Techmarine, it's gotta be for them, right?
It is that. Oh, I like that genuine style.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the title of the most over-the-top Techmarine is the Iron Priest of the Space Wolves, because it's how Space Wolves are.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Hands are not beating more lame Iron Warrior allegations. I don't know. Iron Hands do look pretty cool at times. I do like them.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
That's a Terminator tech man. Dude's got a orc skull on his fucking tabard, a Tyranid head.
Yeah, he's seen some shit.
He has. But the Iron Priests of the Space Wolves are, of course, recruited from Fenris, and so those that are aspirants work as the smiths on the planet. So they have one of the best background when it comes to becoming a tech adept. And those smiths on Fenris worship the Fenrisian gods of iron. And those that are even more devout will find themselves pilgrimage to the boiling sea where the gods are said to call home. If they make the pilgrimage, they do intend to meet the gods, but they aren't actually gods. They're more like, other members of Tech Iron Priests and stuff.
Yeah.
They will have the gods, quote, test their might. And they are, Space Wolf tests. The tests of the Iron Gauntlet, aka they are commanded to wear gauntlets of iron and forced to craft increasingly more difficult and powerful weapons in the lava-filled forges of these islands, which is always very interesting to then follow down the path of the Techmarine and brought through with like their quest. Those that fail, unfortunately, get a second place prize, being turning into a servitor.
I was gonna say, there's when it comes to Space Marine training, there is no second place. You either become it, or I assume you die.
Yeah, their logo is badass as hell.
Oh, yes, it is. Also, does their Techmarine is it mechadendrite? Is it in the shape of a wolf head?
It do look like it. They also carry something called a Tempest Hammer. They carry a big ass hammer instead. It's super cool.
Damn, I honestly thought that, like, for some reason, I guess because Space Wolves are so Viking coded. Oh, we've got mead that makes even Space Marines drunk. I was just like, oh, they probably don't fuck with Techmarines because like that's just not their thing. But God, their versions of Techmarines, their priests are really dope.
They're very, very cool. Agreed. Now, hilariously, once they finish their Techmarine training on Mars, they will return back to the forges they did in the test of the Iron Gauntlet, and they must make a sacrifice to the Iron Wolf, which is placing their right hand directly into the lava of the forge. That hand is then replaced with a bionic hand, and the task of becoming an Iron Priest is complete.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like we said earlier, they do love removing an arm and having it replaced to better make stuff and commune. So I guess that's that makes sense. Air quotes sense.
A Mr. Possum edit here. There is no instance in Norse mythology where someone specifically loses their right hand to a wolf. This is a unique piece of lore written by Games Workshop. And if you believe otherwise and you're mad about this statement, just know that your tears mean nothing to me.
Wow. Possum is bam. That seems very
See, that's the thing. I don't know anything about that like Nordic mythology stuff. I do not know about Tyr losing his hand or something. And so
I don't either. Just the way it's written is like, oh, so there must be a big part where it's like, yup, that's very, you know.
this is why this is extremely helpful to have someone who knows what they're talking about with some of the background history.
Yeah, definitely.
But the Iron Priests then, of course, serve as forges, or serve the forges in the machines of the Fang. And when battle comes, they're responsible for all the machines, the usual, you know.
Naturally, sure.
The Masters of the Forge also have a unique variant that's a bit more dour. This is the Dark Angel that has the rare ability to offer a promotion to the Master of the Forge, known as the Master of the Rock, which is a great work from home position for the Master of the Forge. Also says before chat kills us, it's Tyr losing his arm to Fenrir to imprison the wolf because it causes Ragnarok.
Cool.
I know that the viewers got the reference, even if we didn't.
Yeah, definitely.
But the Master of the Rock specifically is permanently hardwired into the rock itself, with the inability to exist outside of the data centers of the rock. Here's a question here. Much like the hybrids that control the base stars in Battlestar Galactica Reboot.
Oh, I never got into Battlestar Galactica, so I can't even get this reference wrong and make everybody mad. I just don't know.
Well, it says Reboot is a generous description for a TV show over 20 years old, but hey.
Reboot.
If and when the Master of the Rock atrophies and dies, don't worry. They just leave him plugged in. Despite the fact that his body is dying, the tech is still working. Then they just take whatever is left of his corpse and they put it on display in the rock's alcoves of honor and hook a new one up in his place.
Lovely. Love that. Wow. So respectful.
Thanks, Dark Angels. You once again have won the award for holy shit.
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you people?
Dark Angels will do anything to avoid going to therapy.
Dark Angels will literally connect themselves to the hive mind of a planet to avoid going to therapy.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Jesus.
Now, of course, you might ask, hey, what about Chaos Techmarines?
What about Chaos Techmarines, Bricky?
Yeah. So, are there Techmarines in the Traitor Legions? And the answer is convoluted and can be summed up with, well, there were.
Oh, no.
Obviously, when it comes to the Ruinous Powers' influence on Chaos Space Marines, their tech is already some kind of Cronenberg-esque body horror. Mm-hmm. As we've established previously, creations of the Dark Mechanicum are freaking sweet, Lois. Man-made horrors beyond my comprehension.
Yep.
Unlike the admech, there are no glorious halls of Mars where Chaos Space Marines can go and read books all day about how to fix a computer that is feeling a bit down in the dumps. As opposed to a literary fusion of technology and biology, the Dark Mechanicum are far more literal. In the arsenal of the Chaos Space Marine is, of course, the Obliterator, the end result of the Obliterator virus. Origins, not 100% confirmed, are likely from the Dark Mechanicum themselves. It takes your messed up Chaos Space Marine, turns them into a biomechanical monstrosity in the style of Tetsuo Iron Man. A completely normal film, I promise you.
Oh, I have seen that one. It's yeah. Very Iron Warrior coded.
Yes. But there is a catch. Only a few members of any given Chaos Marine force. So you think about it. Which member of a given Space Marine chapter would be perfectly ripe for a virus that is designated to turn you into a half-man, half-machine monstrosity?
Well, that still sounds like Iron Warriors.
Right. So a Techmarine is host of many blessings of the Omnissiah, mod-wise, like Megadendrites and whatnot. So they are a perfect host for an Obliterator virus. In addition to this, the Obliterators and the presence of the virus itself seems to have emerged specifically from the Iron Warriors first, which of course used Bionics as a means to curb mutations due to their hatred of mutations. So in a classic sense, a Techmarine doesn't exist in the Chaos Legions the same way they do in non-Chaos Legions because of a lack of real necessity of them, considering that most of their attack is, alive.
Yeah.
But they do still have a form of a physical presence in the Chaos Space Marine brothers. Either they have turned into a horrifying Obliterator monstrosity, or, and this is fair, there are warp smiths as well, which is a more classic version of a Tech Marine, but it is not a Tech Marine. It is a warp smith.
Yeah, a warp smith does not do the same things a Tech Marine does, right? They are completely, I don't want to say opposite end of the spectrum, but they're a little different.
Now, obviously, if you were playing on the tabletop, if your warp smith and your Tech Marine are basically the exact same unit. Like, the Space Marine Tech Marine. You put it next to a vehicle and it gives regens wounds and makes it fight better. Also, if it's next to the vehicle, it gets the lone operative ability, and it has funny little tendrils of weapons. What's the warp smith do? Literally the exact
same thing. Yeah.
As you may notice, their minis look very identical as well. Even they have a giant axe.
Yeah. Oh, the Chaos one looks so much cooler.
Yeah, damn straight it does.
As it usually does.
Warp smiths are badass. But yeah, a warp smith is a little bit more like, I'm going to enrage the machine spirits, or I'm going to talk to the demon currently inhabiting this tank. That we shoved in there because haha.
Naturally.
The machine god is dead. Long live the machine god. Warp smith Arturian.
That's a great quote. Put that on a shirt.
The warp smiths are they're funny. They're definitely like Chaos Space Marine Tech Marines, basically, but they do operate different.
Yeah, definitely. I love that quote.
I love this other quote. On the 5th day, the bastions fell, and those accursed techno monsters entered the northern Hab districts. The screams haunt me still. Excerpt from the statement of Corporal Vegdrander prior to his execution for dereliction of duty.
Of course.
There's also, flesh and bone are weak and mutable, and yet the demonic is ultimately insubstantial and impotent. To be a master of both matter and energy and blend this mastery with ultimate control of one's consciousness is to achieve true immortality, neither confined by the material nor divorced from it.
Ooh.
Yeah, warp smiths are the guys that capture demons and shove them into machines. And then,
okay.
Gotcha. And then then go chop chop, go murder everyone.
Yep, the demon engines, right?
Yeah, demon engines. Normally, there's some fun ones, but yeah, that's mainly Tech Marines, man. They're not like that much different than what you think they are.
Yeah. But it's cool. I love the fact that they are the living manifestation of the union between Terra and Mars. I think that's really cool. And obviously, if you give me a Space Marine that just has a bunch of big old mechadendrites on it and give him a big cool axe, like, who's not gonna love that?
Yeah. I mean, it's what if I want Space Marines but tech? Because people are like, okay, what if I want Space Marines but like Knights of the Round Table? You play Dark Angels. What do I want Space Marines that are like Nordic? You play Space Wolves. What if I want Space Marine but tech? There you go. You got your Tech Marines.
Yeah. If you were running an admech army on the tabletop, would you be able to run Tech Marines with it? I would assume so, right?
No, I mean, not really, because they're Tech Marines or Space Marines, so you would run them with Space Marines.
True, but like you can mix and match like Empire or Imperium factions, can't you?
No, not really anymore.
Okay.
There are things called agents of the Inquisition or Imperial agents. That's basically like you can add things like Deathwatch or maybe like a sister squad or some inquisitors or assassins. But that's about it. Besides that, no, you mainly like you can run like a knight, for example. But you can't like mix the two of them together.
Oh, okay.
They have that has since been removed since 10th edition, and I personally am okay with it. I think that very often the biggest problem that ran into was people will be like, well, what's the biggest weakness of this army? This. So I'll just bring 500 points of this army that has that as their biggest strength, and then I'm done.
Fair. And then you make sort of you're just hardcore meta min-maxing your army a little bit too much.
Yeah, it can happen a little bit. So I try to go not too much into that.
Fair.
Anyway, that is the Techmarines. No one really likes them.
Is it just because they're just so isolated now, and they come back so weird, and it's just like just fix the tank, George.
It's really funny. It's just like they're just weirdos that stay alone and like read books, and then they work on the machines, and they don't like to socialize, and people don't want to socialize with them. And yeah, considering how admech talked about, or how the Space Marine talked about admech in Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
It's pretty funny, but Anyway, that's pretty good with me. That's all I got.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, Bob in the background fixing the Thunderhawk being like, why fuck me for?